So I get asked in the comment section all the time the same question, and the question is, what glue do you use? Well, to be quite honest, there isn't a simple answer to that one. So that's why I'm making this video, because there's lots of things that you need to think about when you actually buy glue. If you're just going to buy glue for one application, then you're probably going to buy the aerosol kind. But if you are using glue regular and you want to invest in a system, then that's a completely different story. So there are three main types of spray adhesive. So the first one is the aerosol kind. These are readily available. You can pick them up anywhere from Amazon. I wouldn't advise buying any of these from Amazon. I'll explain why you shouldn't buy these from Amazon or places like that. The next one is the canister type. So this is effectively a large one of these, but instead of having a spray on top, you have a hose with a gun on the end. Now these are not cheap because you have to invest in the canister. Now these canisters generally come in varying sizes, usually around about 17 litres. This one is a 22 litre one. This is quite a specialised glue. I'll put this one aside for now. And the next type is buying a tin and having a spray gun. Now this is the most economical way of buying glue. One of these generally, this is a 25 litre tin, this is about £150, and that works out about £6 a litre. But obviously you need a spray gun and a compressor. Doesn't matter which spray gun you have, you can use one of these. I can use a gravity feed one. It's completely irrelevant. They're not specialised for glue, they're just a standard spray gun used for paint. Cheap ones are better. You don't need to go out and buy a really expensive spray gun. Just any will do. Now, this type of glue and the canister type of glue then gets broken down into different categories. So you'll have a standard spray adhesive, or you'll have a high heat spray adhesive. There are more specialised ones for gluing certain products, because all of these have got limitations, things they will and won't glue. Now when you buy this kind of glue, what you need to make sure is that when you buy it, you can actually read the technical data sheet on it. Places like Amazon, you'll not find the technical data sheet for these kind of glues. I buy these kind of glues from a specialist glue supplier. They just sell glues and sealants, and that is it. And every product they sell comes with a safety sheet and a technical data sheet. Now the technical data sheet will tell you what the glue is made of, what it will glue, what it won't glue, the operating temperature window of that glue, your working time, your curing time, and any other things like the colour of the glue will be on there as well. I'll show you a typical technical data sheet. So this is a typical technical data sheet. I'll put it up on the screen so you can see it properly. And this will tell you what the glue is made of. It tells you what the colour of the glue is. It tells you the application temperature. So some glues you can work down to 5 degrees C up to 50 degrees C, but some have a smaller application window. So they might be only 15 degrees to 30 degrees, which is quite a small window, but they're more for your specialised glues. But standard spray contact adhesive, you're looking around about 10 degrees C to 50 degrees C working window. So if you're using this glue in the middle of winter, then you're going to have issues. Any decent glue supplier will have a technical data sheet that you can download and look at and see whether that glue is correct for you. Now, what you need to make sure is its limitations. It will always tell you whether the glue will glue leather, rubber, plastics, wood, ceramic, stone, metal, all these things. Most of them will also tell you its limitations, what it won't glue. Every one of these will tell you not suitable for unbacked vinyl. It might say it will glue PVC. PVC and unbacked vinyl are two completely different things. Now PVC is a rigid kind of plastic, and vinyl is still PVC. PV stands for polyvinyl chloride, so the vinyl part is obviously what people say as being vinyl, and PVC the class as being the rigid type. It's still the same thing, but vinyl fabric, flexible vinyl, has a plasticizer added to it. Now that plasticizer reacts with glue, and the plasticizer is there in the PVC to make the PVC flexible. What happens is when you use this kind of glue on PVC is that the plasticizer that is in the PVC migrates from the vinyl into the glue and makes the glue flexible, just like it does with the PVC. And your glue becomes soft again, so it becomes almost like a jelly and starts to come unbonded. So that's why you need to make sure that you can find the technical data sheet for all of these glues. Some will glue things that others won't. Some will glue plastics that others won't. So when it comes to buying this kind of glue, you need to be aware of those things. So having the technical data sheet will allow you to make an informed decision on whether the glue you're buying is the correct glue. Now, if you're completely unsure, then you can always ring the company that supplies it, and they will tell you whether that glue is suitable for the job you want to do. Now, most people who are buying this kind of glue are buying it to maybe glue carpet down, or the lining a van, or the repairing a headliner, or maybe other things. Maybe they're just doing some craft things. As you can see here, I've got 4 different kinds of glue, and this one and this one are very similar. These two are different. They're both high heat glues, so a lot of spray contact adhesives comes in a high heat and a standard. Now the standard are usually rated only to about 50 degrees C, so if you're using those in places where the temperature might get above that, then avoid these glues. There's obviously a price difference. These glues rate from about £5 per half litre, so that works out about 10 a litre. These are about £8 to £10 a litre. You might pay more for a name brand. Now I buy all my glues from one supplier. They just specialise in glues. When I buy mine, I buy them by the case. So obviously I pay a little bit less than you would pay buying a single tin. But if you're going to do a big job, say you need 5 or 6 tins, you may be better off just buying a whole case. It may save you money, and you'll probably have some glue left over. This glue is a high heat sprayable contact adhesive, and use a compressor and a spray gun. So if you have a compressor and a spray gun already, this is probably what you might be looking at to buy, but in a smaller tin. It comes in the 25 litre tins here in the UK and a 5 litre tin. I'm not sure whether you can buy them in single litres. A 5 litre tin works out about £40 plus VAT and maybe a delivery charge. Some companies won't charge you a delivery charge, some do. The glue it's not completely liquid, but it's liquid enough to spray through a spray gun. You can also put this in a pot and use it with a brush. Absolutely fine to do that. It is more liquid than your standard contact adhesive that you would get for brushing on, but you just need to be aware of that, and to be aware that it will drip. So you just be careful of how you use that. This glue won't actually glue unbacked vinyl. Now, this glue, the Canister type, is a very specific glue that I buy. Now you can buy this kind of system for a standard contact adhesive, you can buy it for a heat contact adhesive, or you can buy it for very specialised glues. This glue, it's a high heat contact adhesive, it's rated to about 150 degrees C, and it will bond unbacked vinyl, and that's why I buy this. Now there is one little issue with the price of these. You have to buy the hose and the gun, which I think could be up to about £150 just for that part of this system. Now when it comes to this canister, this obviously is a specialised glue, and the canister of 22 litre glue is about £600. So unless you are going to be using vinyl and you're gluing vinyl quite a lot, then it's not worth buying this. It's a hell of a lot of money. What you're better off doing is buying vinyl that is backed. So if you're going to do a job where you need to put vinyl on something and you need to glue it down, then just buy a different vinyl. That's much cheaper in the long run. So I'll just show you what the difference is between backed and unbacked vinyl. So I've got two vinyls here in front of me. One's backed and one's unbacked. So if you notice, the one that is red on the back and red on the front is unbacked. It's got a fine scrim, probably polyester or nylon fabric on the back, which the vinyl is bonded to, but that's very open weave and the glue will penetrate through that into the vinyl. Whereas this one, it's green on the front and white on the back. So that says it's got a backing on it. Now this backing is probably a polyester or nylon backing again, but it protects the glue from the vinyl. So you're not gluing the vinyl down, you're gluing the backing down. So you could get away with using any of the glues that are rated for unbacked vinyl on a backed vinyl. Now you can get vinyl with a foam back, so if you're doing a headline and you want to vinyl, bang a foam back vinyl, it's probably the way to do it. But then you're limited to the vinyl you buy and the colours you can buy. Now that's basically the glues explained, but there's a little bit more to it than that. Now, these two glues here are high heat glues. They're both aerosol kind and they're both not suitable for unbacked vinyl. They are different, so they come in the same size tins, but this one, it's called Web Tack. When you spray this one, it actually is drier than this one. So if you're spraying something that is slightly porous, so you're spraying a fabric that hasn't got a backing on it, and you don't want a wet glue, because the wet glue will then penetrate into the fabric and potentially show through the other side. So you want something like this that is a drier glue. So the technical data sheet will tell you these things. It will tell you the solid content of the glue, and it will tell you whether it's a foaming kind of glue. So this is a foaming kind of glue. So when you spray this one, it doesn't wet the surface in the same way. So that's why I have two different kinds of high heat glue. So with all these contact adhesives, they have to be used correctly. Now if I'm spraying something that is rigid, say I'm gluing a plastic to another plastic, the surface of the plastics need to be dry, they need to be free of grease, they need to be free of dust, but also it's a very smooth shiny plastic. You need to get rid of that smoothness. You need to treat it like paint, like you're painting the surface. So you need to give that surface a key. You want something for the actual glue to grip to. Some plastics are not easily gluable until you do the prep. So it needs to be keyed like you would do with paint. So you would do both surfaces, spray both surfaces up, let it tack off, and then press them together. So a lot of people think that as soon as those two surfaces that you've glued touch each other, that's it, it'll never come apart. It's not really true. A lot of contact adhesives need pressure, and they need time with that pressure as well. They may need to be clamped, or you may have to use a roller on the surface, or just a lot of pressure. And that needs to be kept applied for quite a while for that glue to actually cure, and then that bond will become permanent. Now things that are porous are completely different. So things like wood is porous, foam is porous, fabric is porous, carpet is porous. If you're doing a van lining, the van lining carpet is also porous. Those kind of fabrics need a double application. So if you're gluing a bit of van lining carpet to a van, the metal surface is obviously non-porous, but if you've got boards on it, where you boarded the van out, you ply lined it, that wood is porous. So you need a double application of glue. So you would spray the boards, you would spray the carpet, then once they've both tacked off, which means they've gone dry to the touch, they're not sticky, they're not wet anymore, you would then apply another lot of glue to both surfaces. Once that's tacked up, so it's a little bit tacky, then you can apply it and then apply lots of pressure. Now you can use your hands, rub it on, or you can use a roller. So this is the typical kind of roller. You would roll the actual glued surfaces down, applying lots of pressure, and that will actually make this bond better. Just expecting the glue just to stick and that's it. It will come off eventually. It needs the pressure, it needs time to actually cure properly as well. So 2 applications of the glue and then bond it and then pressure. Same with foam. So if you're maybe doing your headline in your car and you've got a foam backed headlining fabric, if you just spray the surface just once, let it dry and then try and glue it together, then chances are it will come apart. Now when it comes to coverage, you need about 80 to 100% coverage of glue. So when you sprayed one way, you let it tack up, you will spray at 90 degrees to that. So I've gone this way, I will turn this one way and I'll go the same way, but the glue is going in the opposite direction, so it will fill any gaps in. So I will leave these 2 pieces here just to tack up. I will glue one together and then the other one I will apply another coat of glue, and then we'll see which one actually glues better. So they've just tacked up now, both of those. I will spray this one again, running the opposite way. Let that one tack up, and then I will actually glue this one together. So this is the one that's had 2 lots of glue applied. So with this, I can pull it apart. It doesn't pull apart easy, but it does pull apart. Now it has taken some of the foam away. I'm not sure if you can see here where the foam has been pulled apart, so the glue has worked. And this one is the one that's had 2 lots of glue applied. And I'm struggling to actually start it. So yeah, I can't even pull those apart at all. Oh, I've started it, no I've not. So as you can see, I can't actually pull them apart at all. Just ripping the surface off. So as you can see, you need 2 lots of glue. Anything porous, so that's foam, carpet, any fabric needs the same, but you have to be careful with fabrics. So I have 2 different kinds of fabric here. This is a very fine fabric, it's got no backing on it. This is a piece of Alcantara, and this is a piece of fake Alcantara, but it's got a backing on it. Now, if I was to use this kind of glue, This is a little bit wetter than this glue. Both high heat glues, but this is a much wetter one than this one. And if I use this on these fabrics, I have to spray them twice, remember, because fabric is porous, so I can't just put one coat on, I've got to put 2 coats on. And I would actually, you can see straight away with this one, see how wet it is. It's quite wet, and it's come through the opposite side. So you don't want to use a wet glue like this one on fabrics. You want to make sure you get one that is a foaming glue that won't wet as much. Let me find the same fabric. So this is the same fabric, and this is the foaming glue. A little bit of a tip as well, when you spray glue and then you've used it a few times, you'll find that there's glue in the nozzle. Try and pull that off. The technical data sheet says turn it upside down, spray the glue out till it stops, and that'll clear your nozzle. That wastes a lot of glue. Every time you glue a bit, then you spray a bit upside down, you're using twice as much glue as you should do. What I do is I pick whatever I can off the nozzle, and then I'll spray just a tiny bit in the bin. That'll clear the nozzle out, because if you leave any glue on the nozzle, you could potentially get glue going off in different directions. If you're a man, you know exactly what I mean, especially if you're uncircumcised. It's exactly the same thing. So this is the dry glue, and you do have little bits that have come through, but not quite as much. And this is quite an extreme example. If you're gluing something this fine, you're going to have problems no matter what glue you use. It's a very fine, thin fabric. You can see through it. But it's nowhere near as bad as this one was. But again, you still need 2 lots of glue. Now, Alcantara it's nowhere near as fine, but still, if you're applying glue and you apply, quite a lot of the wet glue, we'll do it on the back fabric as well. You can actually see how the glue is soaking in, because it's a wet glue. It's soaking into this and forming wet spots on it. Now potentially that can come through the back. This is a relatively thickish fabric, so it's not come through the back yet, but it's quite easy to get too much glue on fabrics, especially with a wet glue. So again, use the drier glue, the more forming glue. So when you actually read the technical data sheet, it will tell you per 500ml tin, you might get 4 square meters of coverage from one tin, but it would say between 2 and 4. And that's why there's always a minimum and maximum, because with some applications you need to apply 2 layers of glue. So the technical data sheet will also tell you time for tacking up. So sometimes it might say 2 minutes, and sometimes it might say 5 minutes. So a glue typically like this, which is a drier glue to start off with, will have a faster tack up time. So this might only be 2 minutes. So spray it on, wait 2 minutes. Now if the temperature is a bit cold or a bit humid or a bit too hot, then that time will change. So you have to kind of do a test piece when you are first using glue on a new fabric, or if it's the first time you've ever used glue. Yeah, that one says working time is 2 to 5 minutes on this. This one says working time, tack life, 5 to 30 minutes. I think it's for this one. So this is obviously a wetter glue. So whatever the working time is, the longer the working time generally, the wetter the glue is. This one, the web tack, which is this one here, which is the dry glue, this says between 1 and 2 minutes time to tack up, and this one is 2 to 5 minutes. So because it's drier, it takes less time. So this is the Alcantara that's had 2 lots of glue applied. Now I can pull it apart. It takes up a lot more to pull it apart than that one. Now if I'd left these for 24 hours, it would have been a different matter. This one would be almost impossible to pull apart. That one, probably, I could have pulled it apart much easier than this one. Dirty sheets will also tell you the full cure time. Generally the full cure time is 24 hours. Most glues you are 80% cured at maybe an hour, but then the rest of the cure time, the extra 20%, is best to be left overnight. So if you can leave things as long as possible to be fully cured before you install them. So if you're installing the headliner and you've got the headliner on the bench and you apply the fabric and you put it straight in the vehicle, then there's a chance with gravity it will just pull a little bit on the glue and it may come unstuck over time. So the longer you can leave it, the better. Obviously at a good working temperature as well. If you do it in winter when it's really cold, you need to keep the room at a room temperature. Using these glues in any less than 5 degrees C is a big no-no. And also storage is, you should all say what you store these at, and generally it's above 10 degrees C and below 50. So make sure they're stored somewhere away from a cold wall. Don't put them on a concrete floor in winter. And if you do have to use these glues in a cold environment, maybe you're doing a job in winter and you've got no heating, there are ways around it. So what I do is I will put these in warm water, not hot water, so maybe like the temperature of a bath. So I'll put them in a jug with some warm water, leave them in the jug with warm water, and whatever surface I'm gluing to, I will also try and apply heat to that. So if it's metal, you need to warm the metal up, keep that metal as warm as possible. If you can bring a vehicle inside to do any work, bring it inside, put a heater in there, warm the vehicle up, leave it for a couple of hours, let it get warm, let the metal actually get warm, and then you can start doing the job. Maybe if the job takes you all day, you might have to apply the heater again just to warm the vehicle up, keep that temperature in the operating window of the glue. Now there are also very specialist glues, so a lot of these glues will not glue unbacked vinyl, but they also won't glue polystyrene. I think Americans call it styrofoam. What they will do, they'll melt the polystyrene. So as soon as you apply the glue, you'll hear like a bubbling noise, and that's the glue melting the polystyrene. So you can buy glues specific for jobs like that. They're not cheap. So a glue that is a high heat glue for polystyrene, maybe you've got a bit of insulation inside a vehicle that is polystyrene, have to be glued to a bulkhead, a firewall, whatever, then you're going to do this very specialised glue for that. Now the glues are about £20 a tin, same size, 500ml tin, but they are guaranteed for polystyrene. So if you're gluing anything that is out of the ordinary, like polystyrene, any strange plastics, then you need to be aware that there are specialised glues for things like that. Not always spray adhesives, but you can buy a lot of them. Same with the big canisters. The big canisters do very specialised glues. They are not cheap, but you get very quick, very good coverage. The spray pattern is very wide, very even, and if you're in an industry where you need to be using glue all the time, they are one of the best ways to apply glue. When it comes to the glue in here, use this exactly the same way as that. It's not a magic glue. People will tell you, I never use these glues. Always use this. Buy the same glue, never use anything else. Been doing it for years, and it's the only glue I'd ever use. This won't glue unbacked vinyl. It will glue it initially, but again, you'll get the plasticizer migration into the glue. The glue will become soft over years, and it won't glue. It is very economical to use, but the trouble with this glue is if you've got a tight space and you're working in, you've got to be inside a vehicle. It's a pain. It's heavy. You've got a hose attached to it, and sometimes you just can't get this into areas that you need to, and that's why I use these glues as well. They're convenient. You just pick one up, spray it, done. This glue, I've got to make sure the compressor's on, find where I put the air line. Connect it up. I'm now ready to spray, but I've still got to deal with this and the weight of this. When this is full, it's a litre pot plus the weight of the gun. We're looking at carrying around 1.5 kilos, maybe 2 kilos, and if you're using it for a long time, it does get very tiring. These are just small, convenient, easy to use, a little bit more expensive, but they do a decent job if you use them correctly. People say, oh, they failed, they're no good. That's because people are using them wrong. They're usually using them in the wrong operating window, not applying enough glue in the two-coat method, and buying the wrong one. In my opinion, they're all much of a muchness. There's not a lot of difference between one brand of standard contact adhesive and another. They do the same job. A high heat contact adhesive is a high heat contact adhesive. Now, some are rated a little bit higher, some are from 90 degrees up to 120, but the higher temperature you get, the more it's going to cost you. If you want a 120 degree contact adhesive, instead of paying for one of these at maybe £8 each, you'll probably be paying anywhere around about £15. If you want something that is a super high heat, maybe around 150 degrees C, then you'll pay up to about £20 a tin. Now, if you don't need that 150 degrees, then there's no point in buying it. But I'm sure all these glues are made in the same factory somewhere. They all use the same formulation. There's not a lot of difference. I've never found much difference in any of the tins. A high heat is a high heat. It's just the fact that this one is more liquid than this one, and that's why I have two high heat contact adhesives. No other reason. The spray pattern on this is better. These come with adjustable nozzles on top, so you can have a fine, thin spray, or turn it and you get a wide spray. Some brands don't do that. It's just one spray fits all, but I very rarely use this feature. Very occasionally, but the trouble is, it doesn't control the volume of glue, it controls the spray pattern of the glue. So if I've got it on the narrow nozzle, it just puts a patch on. Wide nozzle, it gives you a wider pattern, but with the same amount of glue. So you have less chance of actually forming wet spots on the fabric. You can see the wet spots. That's because I've put it onto the thinner nozzle pattern, but you get the same amount of glue coming out, but in a more concentrated area. Now, if that's what you need, then that's fine, but I find I never use it anyway. So again, this glue is, I would say, the same as one of these. It's a high heat contact adhesive, and if I'm spraying something porous, I need to do the same thing. I need to, if I just give it one coat. Now these are a little bit less controllable. You've got a big pot and it's not as easy to see the glue. So I cut this in half now. So that is my single coat. I'll put that to one side in a minute. Now the glue in this is a little bit wet. It's probably a little bit wetter than one of these. So the tack up time is a little bit longer, and it's much easier to overspray the glue because you can't see the glue as much. With this stuff you can see it come out. It's very obvious when you are spraying the glue out, whereas using one of these, it's not quite as easy to see. The glue's a slightly different colour, it's a bit yellowy, and sometimes that can cause an issue if it bleeds through on things. But it's economical, it's cheap. If you glue in big areas and you've got a spray gun and you've got a compressor and you think you're going to be using 5 litres of glue, go and buy your 5 litres of high heat contact adhesive. That's tacked up a little bit now. I'll just spray this again. Now, the one disadvantage with this kind of system, the air powered one, is that. So you see the fabric moves about, the air blows it around, which can be an issue if you're gluing something and this is what's happening to the fabric. The glue can potentially get underneath it and get onto the wrong side. And if it's something like a fabric that you can't get the glue off, you're pretty stuffed. So you have to be careful. You have to make sure you've either got the piece secured to a bench, maybe weighted or pinned, and then when you do spray it, it doesn't lift. So that's had now 2 coats. This will be tacked up enough. So this is now tacked up enough. So this is the one that only had 1 layer of glue on from the spray gun. People say this is the best, only buy this, only use this. It has its same limitations as this glue does. It's, in my opinion, it's not much different. You just need to know how to use this glue. So I can pull this apart. And this is the one that has had 2 layers applied. I know straight away that that is going to be hard to get apart. As you can see, so always apply 2 layers of glue, irrelevant of what you're using. It's a bit better, this glue. If you don't have the spray gun, you're not going to go out and buy a spray gun, you're not going to go out and buy a compressor, then you are limited to buying this kind of glue, but you just need to know which one is the best for the job and how to use them. Apply 2 layers. It's that simple. Apply 2 layers, make sure the temperature is correct, make sure you do everything that the data sheet tells you to do, use it in the right operating window, and make sure you do all the prep. So the surfaces have to be clean and dry, dust free, grease free, oil free. Wipe them down with acetone, key the surface, do everything you need to do to make that bond as good as it can be. Just trying to apply glue to a surface and hoping it's glue, it'll stick to anything. it's not true. It doesn't stick to anything. It needs prep. So I hope you learned something there. And when you go out and buy glue next time, buy it from someone that just sells glue, that knows what glue is. Amazon sell anything and they know nothing about what they're selling. They're just there to make the money. They're there to actually sell a product and they don't care. Whereas people that actually specialise in glues are the people with all the knowledge, the people that if you have any questions, then you can drop them an email, you can call them up, and they will advise you on what glue is best for what you're doing and advise you on how to use it as well. So I hope you found that useful. If you did, give it the old thumbs up and I hope you subscribed. If you're not, then why not? Hope to see you again. Thanks for watching. Bye.